market risk, to get rid of the stock risk. So then you're left with market risk, okay? So they say, look, we looked at 2 types of risk, not just one kind of risk. We have stock risk and we have market risk. So that's a better model. That's true. But then they use this to say, okay, let's say the stock risk, the risk of the stock, we'll call it the beta. Remember what I said about Greek letters? Okay, beta. So what is the beta of the stock? Which means, how does the stock move versus the market? If the market goes like this and the stock goes like this, we can find a correlation, okay? So let's just say the beta of your LP. Is that a good stock?
No.
It's not a good stock, okay. Well, let's just say the beta of LP, which is not a good stock, is 2. That means when the market moves up 1 point, or 1%, LP will move up 2%. So it's double, okay? That's the correlation. So the higher the beta, the more it will move up when the market moves up. If the market moves up 30 points, the stock will move up 60 points if it's 2. Let's just say the beta of LP is 1. So if the market moves up 1, the stock will move up 1. It's perfectly correlated. So that's CAPM. What is the problem with that? First of all, again, 2 risks. Not enough. How many risks are there in the markets? Once again, in industry risk, political risk, the risk of societal upheavals. I mean, look at Greece. No one, everybody in Wall Street, believe me, is scratching their head. What's going to happen with Greece? What is the risk there? The models cannot model it. They cannot take into account these societal risks. So, you know, you can have programs to calculate beta. And they'll say beta of LP over the past few years has been X. But when you look at the betas calculated by different people, S&P, you know, Fitch, whatever the rating agencies are, they're all different for the same stock. So they cannot even agree on a single beta. And, you know, if you use this also to calculate the returns of a stock, which is how much a stock will come back. There is a formula, I won't give it to you, but basically there's a formula which says returns are equivalent to the beta. And if you look at the returns on all the stocks that we've used it on, they don't match the real world ones. So the theoretical returns using CAPM do not match the real returns that we find in the market. So once again, CAPM has flaws in the theory, and CAPM has flaws in the real world because real world information does not match the theoretical information. So far, so good. Okay, so then we have found flaws in the financial theories. And even OPT, which I will go through very quickly, which is to price the options like derivatives, they found that the theoretical pricing using this is once again does not match the price in the market, where you actually look up the screen and say, what is the price of, you know, IBM derivatives? Oh yeah, on the Bloomberg screen, the IBM derivatives is $10. When you use the OPT and calculate the theoretical value, it's $8. So once again, the real world value does not match the theoretical value. So we can see that these 3 theories in modern finance theory are flawed. They are flawed, we say empirically, which means real world evidence doesn't support it. They're flawed theoretically. because they're way too simplified. So, and they're flawed, we would say ethically, and we will get to that. But the main flaw which comes in these theories, and remember these theories determine the functioning of the financial system. Everything that is done in finance is based on these theories. And the main reason they are flawed, aside from the empirical and the theoretical, is their assumptions. And this is where we get into why ethics has been discarded and neglected in financial theory and therefore in financial practice. Now, modern finance theory and finance is a stepchild. It comes out of economics, okay? And so it takes the same kind of assumptions that neoclassical economic theory has. So let me give you the assumptions of modern finance theory and the assumptions of economics. One, now I want to say that these assumptions are made so that they could make these lovely models, by the way, CAPM, because they wanted it to be quantitative. In order to be really quantitative, they wanted it to be as simple as possible, get rid of all the noise. So you have to make assumptions to make the model easy to quantify. So the first assumption, all economic agents are rational. Okay? Remember, this is an assumption. How would you say assumption? It means it's not the real thing. You're just assuming that people are like this. Two, all economic agents are self-interested. Okay? Assumption three, the definition of rationality in this theory is utility maximization. Now, what is utility maximization? Utility means preference. What do you prefer? You prefer milk chocolate or dark chocolate? You prefer green or red? So it's a preference, okay? Maximization means to get the most out of your preference. Okay, so it means get the most out of the preferences you have. All right, what is utility though? You can't have everyone saying like, my utility is this, your utility is that. We all have different utilities, so it's really difficult to model. Everyone must have the same utility. So what is the utility for rational economic man? Profits. Or money. That's all. I'm serious. We're not looking at, I want to maximize my, enrichment of my thinking. No. I want to maximize my family life. No. Everybody's, according to MFT, utility is measured in profits. That's all we care about, okay? So therefore, just looking at this, the definition of rationality is utility maximization. Utility equals profits. Therefore, the definition of rationality is profit maximization. Do you see how that goes? So therefore, the assumption in modern finance theories and in neoclassical economics is that as Homo economicus, which is economic man, all we want is to maximize profits. And we are totally self-interested in getting to that. Now, as I said, these are assumptions. And by the way, these neoclassical assumptions came around in the 1950s. So modern finance theory is not very old. It's only 60 years old. And yet it has become so much part of our psyche. I don't know if any of you have ever questioned this. Oh yeah, I was talking to even a professor of philosophy at dinner, and he said, yeah, the firms, they should just profit maximize. That's their goal. So we don't even question it very much now, because we've been taught this from school, because we are all in capitalist societies, free market. So we don't really question this too much. When actually it's just an assumption that was made in the 1950s. But then, as you know, through time, ideas change, and they harden, and they ossify. So the assumptions over time became, instead of, we assume all economic agents are rational, and we assume that they are profit maximizers, we went on to say, from assume, we went from assume to is, okay? All economic agents are rational. Not just assumed to be, they are self-interested. They do think profits are the most important things. The definition of rationality, therefore, they do want to have profit maximization. So it went from assume to is. So that was insidious enough. That was kind of scary enough over the past few decades. But then it went down over time to ought. So did you see the move? It went from assume to is to ought over time. So that we think now all economic agents ought to or should be rational. All economic agents should be self-interested. All economic agents should maximize utility. And all economic agents should be profit maximizers. So that's how it went to it today. Now in this, did you see any values in these assumptions? There's no ethics there, no values, right? In fact, they are very proud. It came out at a time where, values were not considered to be scientific. It's called positivism. I know it's a big, horrid word, but it just means no values or value neutral. Because we came out of a time after the Second World War when people tried to impose values, and everyone was very shell-shocked in the intellectual sphere. So they wanted to just say, let's ignore values. We can't quantify it anyway. We're going to have a theory which doesn't take into account values. And that happened in economics, that happened in law, that happened in social sciences, where we tried to get rid of values because they were just not quantifiable. So this, number 5, rationality, the economic agent are profit maximizers. This is where I say the assumption has become the ethic, which is the value now in capitalist societies. I mean, do you ever think someone is crazy or loco when they say, we should be profit maximizing? Do we question it? No. Because we think, really, we should be. Instead of we assume for this model, for the sake of these models, that they should be. So the assumption has become the ethic, and that therefore, nobody in finance programs teaches finance and ethics. I don't know about Chile, but in the US, I teach global finance and ethics, but I am one of 5 KU is University of Kansas is one of 5 universities which actually teaches ethics and finance. Because most finance professors and academics have this view that ethics is irrelevant in finance because the market will decide what is right and what is wrong.